Welcome back, everyone, to Figuring Out the Formula. I'm your host, Kyle. I'm here with Chandler and Patrick, as always. This is the second part of our two-part series of the Austrian Grand Prix and the British Grand Prix. The British Grand Prix was a lot better than the Austrian, in my opinion. It wasn't a sprint weekend, but it had a lot better racing, way less penalties. There was less bitching by the drivers. It was overall just a great race. Did you guys prefer the Austrian or the British Grand Prix more?
Silverstone.
I think that just because of the lack of penalties and complaining from drivers, that Silverstone was a bit more pleasurable to watch. Now, Austria was great, but I definitely think that the British Grand Prix was a smoother race and more exciting.
Speaking of exciting, there's a new F1 movie coming out from Brad Pitt. We don't really get a whole lot of movies. I think there's maybe two or three that I can think of, like about James Hunt and all that, but Niki Lauda, some of those movies, but there hasn't been any recent movies. So I'm kind of excited to hear and see this movie. Hopefully it's good. Apparently it's Brad Pitt's movie, so he wouldn't hopefully do anything too shitty, but apparently it's supposed to have like the same kind of cameras and like filming sequences as Top Gun Maverick did. I don't know, something cool to watch.
It's been, at least from what I can see, it's been like a pretty thorough undertaking. I know that they actually had Lewis Hamilton hired on as a producer, because he and I think some of the other drivers were like, okay, if you're going to make this movie, you're going to do it right. And they actually had like a whole garage set up for two cars and like their whole livery created with like sponsors and everything. They had a whole like pit crew. From what it looked like, it's probably as close as they can get without being in an actual race. So I'm definitely excited for it. Honestly, who knows how the plot and everything is going to go, but a movie about F1 is a movie about F1. You'll get my money for it.
Yeah. And I'll just pirate the movie somewhere anyways. So there might be a little Chinese writing on the bottom of the screen, but I'm still going to watch it. Hopefully it's a good movie. Please don't arrest me, FBI, if you're watching this. But yeah, no, it should be a good time. Hopefully it's not the typical, a driver falls in love and then it's just a ripoff of Days of Thunder or something like that. Hopefully that's not the case. I guess we'll see. We'll find out. It's Brad Pitt. That's a good way to start the weekend when Brad Pitt's filming a movie at Silverstone. Not a bad way, but the only worst way to start out your weekend in Silverstone is to hear rumors about drivers that might be taking your spot. So Nick DeVries, I'm looking at you, buddy. You ain't driving in F1 next year. If you are, I'd be surprised. Yeah, so speaking of exciting things, the exciting part about silly season, which should be coming up here pretty soon, is we don't know which drivers are going to stay, which drivers aren't. There's one driver from IndyCar that is rumored to be taking the spot of maybe Nick DeVries, maybe someone else. We don't know yet because silly season hasn't begun yet, but it's starting. Alex Palou, he drives for Ganassi Racing in IndyCar. He's won races. He's
leading the championship.
He has, yeah. So he's rumored to be coming to F1. Whether that's in a competitive car or not, only time will tell. But it's exciting to hear that someone is moving from Indy to Formula One, because normally it's the other way around, or to like endurance or something like that. For example, Roman Grosjean drove for Haas, and then he had his huge accident. Everyone who's seen Drive to Survive with the flaming crash, like they remember him for that. But he's a great driver, and now he's been very successful in IndyCar. So it's cool to see them moving from Indy to Formula One, not the other way around.
It's always interesting. I mean, last year we saw McLaren and Zach Brown testing out probably 5 or 6 like IndyCar drivers to come over. I know last year the Colton Herta was the big name, and that kind of buzz has fallen off. I guess, whenever it's a fickle game, this sport is, and, Colton Herta hadn't had a great year. And so, of course, now all the rumors are kaput about that. But Alex Palou winning races, leading the championship. is starting to turn some heads, and not just. And I mean, now it's like for the first time, McLaren does not have an open seat next year, so it's like usually 90% of your drivers that were coming from IndyCar to test were going to test in a McLaren. But it's interesting, if you're getting some recognition from Alpha Tauri and the Red Bull folks, that's some serious recognition. So very interesting to see what happens over this next. I really will say probably the next month and a half to 2 months is when we'll know.
Yeah, absolutely. Chandler talked about like turning heads, that kind of thing. Well, we move into the qualifying of the British Grand Prix, and Sir Lewis Hamilton wasn't just turning the fans' heads, he was turning his own. In Q1, Lewis spun out. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He just bent it. Luckily, the Knight himself was able to save his car and not put it into the wall. Just got in the gravel a little bit, spun it out, kept it moving. It was fine. There was no real damage to his car, but it was eye-opening because you're like, okay, the rain is starting to pick up. What's about to happen? Qualifying, whenever it's raining, it's anybody's game. Even Kevin Magnussen sometimes. Pat, do you believe that the rain is a great equalizer, or do you think it still depends on your car?
I think rain is the great equalizer for pretty much everybody except Max Verstappen. He's the only one I've ever seen that's consistently doesn't really have issues driving in the wet. I think Lewis really got lucky in Q1. He spun into a gravel trap, of which it was also in those areas on the backside of Silverstone that are really fast corners. So it's not just like, oh, he just slightly understeered and then went off. Like he was off. And he got really lucky. But, back to your question, the rain is the great equalizer for pretty much everybody. And it can produce some pretty wild results.
Yeah, I think that Haas over this year, anytime it rains there qualifying, Haas are the ones to look for most of the time, except for when you realize like, oh wait, it's still a Haas. Like I'm not gonna put money on this. They could be at plus 800. Like I'm not putting anything on them. Like this is ridiculous. And that was proven on Saturday during Q1. Kevin Magnussen stopped on track. It's slightly raining, but he stopped on track due to engine issues. Now, he didn't catch on fire like his teammate did the week before in Austria, but still, it's like, what is going on in Haas? Like, their engines are not reliable whatsoever.
It's a tale as old as time for Haas. I mean, their engines blow up just like Ferraris do. And if I were them, I don't know why they're still using Ferrari engines. Like if I'm Gene Haas, I'm going ahead and trying to shop with, Red Bull or Alpine, because at least it doesn't blow up like theirs does with Ferrari so consistently.
I think the most, now this is just speculation, but I think if you look up the most reliable engines since the new cars came out, my money would probably be on Mercedes to not have
100%.
actual issues. I'm not saying speed wise, but straight up
reliability.
Yeah, no, it's definitely Mercedes.
So if Mick Schumacher can say fuck you to Haas needs to say fuck you to Ferrari and just move right over to Mercedes engines. Or, Audi coming into the sport, maybe that's another partner that they could, team up with to get some engines, because Ferrari they're not winning. The Ferrari engines are not winning, and they're not reliable. So a small team like Haas, is a juice worth the squeeze, in my opinion? No, that's where I'm at with that. But speaking of Kevin Magnussen, like I said, he stopped on track, caused a red flag with another 3-something minutes left in the session. It put a wrench in everybody's plan. The way Silverstone works, if you're the last car to cross the line before time runs out, you're probably going to be safe in qualifying. Probably. If you go 2 minutes before the time expires, you're probably going to end up getting passed by someone. If you don't, it's by the grace of God. Well, in Q1, out in Q1, we had Kevin Magnussen, De Vries, Zhou, Yuki Tsunoda, and for the fourth time in a row, this guy missed Q2. It's the fifth time in a row he's missed Q3. When I say that, Pat, which team or which driver would you think that would be? So fourth miss Q2, fifth miss Q3.
His name right now, it gives me depression. Sergio Perez, I don't know what his deal is. I mean, I don't know if he just forgot how to be competitive or what it is. At this point, I'm really starting to get in my head to where it's like, okay, if it's, an actual racing track, he's going to be dog shit. If it's a street track, he's going to blow it away. And I really don't know why at this point with how long he's been racing, but I mean, you have by far the best car on the grid, and he's driving it like he's driving
maybe a decade.
Yeah, I mean, he's driving it like he's driving like an Alfa Romeo or something. I don't know if it's just he's not braking late enough or braking too early or what it could be. He just can't qualify worth a shit.
I don't care if it's confidence or not, right? If you're in that Red Bull, even 90% driving, because qualifying is 100% driving. Like you're driving to the absolute limit. Even if you're driving 95%, that car, even if you're braking early, that car is still going to finish in the top 10. So to miss 4 Q2s, so he's in the bottom 5 in 4 races in a row. That's him, not the car. You know what I mean? Like it's not saying like the car is set up wrong or whatever. That's him. 100% that's him. And at the beginning of the year, for you guys listening, we were discussing about how there's a real opportunity for Checo to become a world champion and compete against Max. This is, if you put Michael Strahan against a freshman JV guy, like this is, there's no compare. Like this is not even fair anymore. Yeah. We talked last episode that Max decided to take the fastest lap from Checo. Well, what does Checo need it for? He's not doing shit with his points anyways. Like this is insane.
Yeah, we kind of further along with this week before the race said, Max said, at the end of the day, we are still trying to win a constructors championship. And then Max had to go be that cocky, arrogant self he is and was like, but I can do that on my own too, I guess.
Which he is.
I feel like he's going to need back surgery at the end of the season from just carrying the fucking team, dude.
I'm telling you, it's amazing because outside of Checo's had 2 wins this season?
I hate to put this name out there because it's all you're going to hear towards silly season, but do you think Danny Rick wins more than 2 races like Checo has? Or do you at least think he qualifies better? Do you think because like we said, Checo's missed 4 Q2s in a row. I don't think there's no way in hell that Danny Rick does that. Granted, we haven't seen him race in a year, but still.
I think he could at least qualify more consistently than Checo.
I don't think he wins many more races than what Checo's won, but
yeah, no, I don't think he would be catching Max.
Yeah, well, that's based off Max not doing Max's because he's leaps and bounds ahead of everyone. But I'm saying like a Red Bull 1-2 or 1-3 beats a Red Bull 1-9,
7 or 10. Yeah.
So
I think Danny Rick would do a more consistent job. I don't think. I still think Max would be carrying the team.
Yeah. It's Max's team.
I mean, it would be a consistent Q3 and top, like 8 or 5.
Which that's what I think. I think Helmet and all them. I think at Red Bull, I think that's what they're going to be searching for in the off season is a consistent secondary fiddle, like a second fiddle to Max, because Max is at the end of this season is going to be a 3-time world champion. Well, he's going to get obviously preference on treatment and stuff like that. So Checo is, unless he decides to take a pay cut, I don't think he's going to be there too much more. But
yeah.
moving from Checo missing Q2 for the fourth time in a row, we move into Q2 and we have Bottas, Sargent, Ocon, Stroll, and Hulkenberg. All of them out in Q2. So the only thing to really talk about in Q2 was Bottas. Chandler, what actually happened? Because he ended up getting a penalty or something, right?
Yep. So if you look, it was about halfway through Q2. He's kind of spun. I don't say it wasn't a full spin, but he got loose, ran wide, and basically had to come in and reassess, like, to get a lap time in. So he had to push to get his lap time. Grand scheme of things, didn't really matter because he was 15th, so he was last among the Q2 like participants. However, by him pushing that extra to try and get that extra lap, they didn't think they're going to need the fuel sample. So whenever they fuel up in between sessions, they fuel up, think, okay, you're going to run X amount of flying laps, X amount of in or out laps, and then that's that. We're basically didn't have, I think it's 1 liter of fluid,
Yep.
1 liter of fuel to submit for a sample. Well, because he didn't have that, they didn't have time to refuel, so he had to push, and he could not give a liter of fuel. So therefore, disqualifying him from qualifying. So had he finished first, had he finished 19th, automatically puts you at the back of the grid to start. So he got pushed to the back. So, it did help Checo start at 15th instead of 16th. But yeah,
Yeah.
So, but aside from that, nothing really extravagant in Q2. I mean, we kind of already discussed how Q2, it's kind of the same old players of, like, usually you'll see like 1 or 2 of the people that, like, we'll get into Q3, but there's like 1 or 2 kind of not surprise names, but of like the 5 people in Q2 plus like 2 or 3 other names in Q3. You have like these 7 to 8 drivers. 2 of them are always going to make it to Q3. These others are all going to kind of cover up the midfield, and so that's what we got.
Well, my biggest surprise of qualifying in Q1, I already talked, like, Checo missed out, but my biggest surprise was both Williams in Q2.
Yeah,
that was great to see. I mean, last episode I was talking shit about Jeff and Nachi and all them. Well, boys Auburn or whatever you guys compared Williams to.
Oakland Raiders is the new one.
Okay, yeah. Well, the Raiders are back because at Silverstone, historic Silverstone, they did great.
And it was their 800th Grand Prix. Great livery, by the way, Williams. Shout out to the livery.
They had the Union Jack on the back of the car. Awesome. But we move into Q3, and I was happy. I know Chandler's happy.
Very happy.
I was happy.
Oh, okay.
I was happy for you guys.
Okay, we're bringing them to the dark side.
Like I said in the chat,
gonna be happy.
Quadruple bang. Yeah,
quadruple bang, 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 bang,
bang, bang, bang, bang. But the crazy thing was, we talked about McLaren having upgrades.
They redesigned the front wing, and both Oscar and Lando had that. The nose was redesigned. Only Lando had that. And then the brake ducts were redesigned in the back, and the rear suspension was redesigned. Both of them had that. So Lando had the full package. Oscar almost had the full package, but not as much, not fully as much. He's going to get a nose next week at Hungary.
So
wait. Y'all are forgetting the most important part. Y'all went back to the chrome livery.
Also that. The silver bullet.
The Google Chrome fastest internet browser livery. That's important.
Yeah. My thing is, we talked for maybe 5 episodes in a row about Andreas Stella saying, yeah, we have upgrades coming. They're coming. And McLaren just looked like shit. Like, it was like, dude, this is fucking embarrassing. Well, they came. They did not disappoint. At Silverstone, Chandler, the top 3 in qualifying at the end of the qualifying session was Max Verstappen, whatever. He got pole. That doesn't really give a shit. Who cares? That's a given. Anyways, what really got the fans in Great Britain at the British Grand Prix in Silverstone was the Brit, Lando Norris, qualifying second.
Bang, bang.
Do you know what's better than one McLaren on the podium?
2 McLarens on the podium.
Bang. Bang, bang.
Bang, 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 bang. We're back.
So Max Verstappen qualified pole, whatever. Lando Norris got second, and then Oscar Piastri, a rookie, qualified third. Best qualifying session of his career in F1 so far. Obviously, it's only the first year, but still very impressive. Dude, last time McLaren got up there, Zach Brown was the most awkward fucker on earth. This time, he acted like a human being. I don't know if he downloaded his updated software from his Google Chrome or what, but that robot was no more. He was a human again.
Yes.
Eat shit, Zuckerberg, because this is it, buddy. We made it. Yeah.
You gotta fly the W.
I wanted to put tape on my shirt like that one time.
Yeah.
But I couldn't change the 4 to a 2, so I'd look like a fucking idiot. But yeah.
I mean, I really like qualifying. And I liked actually seeing McLaren up at the front. It's honestly, from the couple years that I've been watching F1, it's probably the biggest instance I've seen, or most dramatic instance, where a team says, "Oh yeah, we're bringing upgrades," and then it actually like significantly improves their performance because
it upgrades it.
I mean, like we were saying at the beginning of the season, it was a tractor. I mean, they were stuck at like 15th through 20th, and then all of a sudden they're back at the front.
We're talking about the last episode, like Mika Hakkinen after Canadian Grand Prix, like they're going to compete with Red Bull, and we're all just like, whatever. And then Lando goes and gets 4th place in, 5th, 4th in Austria. And even still at that point, you're like, all right, whatever. That's just the old man yells like, come on, old man, let's get you back in the nursing home, Mika. And just, we see it in qualifying. And I mean, even to like 3 minutes left, I remember sending it in the group text. When they enabled DRS, I was like, they've enabled DRS. It's been a fun run this Q1 and Q2.
Yeah.
I'll enjoy both McLarens being at like 7th and 8th, like going into the last. And then they held strong at 2 and 3. Oh my goodness. That is just rejuvenating to the sense.
Even better than that was when time expired, basically everybody was on their lap, like their flying lap, setting their time. Well, Lando finished before Max Verstappen. Lando had provisional pole. Buddy, let me tell you what, I was freaking out. Like, no way. Like, what? He's okay, cool. And then Max had to ruin it. Well, that's exactly what Lando said in the post-qualifying interview was, yeah, Max ruins everything. He said it jokingly, but he's like, yeah, Max ruins everything, whatever. At least we're up here, that kind of thing. Yep. I thought it was funny. The fans, dude, at Silverstone
were nuts.
Absolutely loved that McLaren was up there. It's their home race, along with every other team, basically. But it's their home race. And oh my God, that was so much fun to see. Like, he was like, I haven't seen Lando that happy in a while.
You just heard the roar of the crowd as he came around the last turn.
Well, Silverstone is so special and historic. I mean, it's insane because, like I said, it's their home track. But why don't we jump into Pat's Paddock and you can explain a little bit more about this old airfield?
So back in Pat's Paddock, this week we're actually going to have a little bit of a history lesson about why Silverstone is important, why it matters for F1. So Silverstone was actually the first track that Formula One ever raced at upon establishing the World Drivers' Championship in 1950. So a lot of people consider, while Monaco may be the current home of F1, Silverstone is considered as the birthplace of Formula One. It was actually originally an airfield that was owned by the Royal Air Force, which was just used for mainly training and things like that right after World War I, before the Royal Automobile Club, which It's essentially just like an exclusive racing club in the UK. They actually took over the land in 1948 and then began leasing it to the British Racing Drivers Club, which that's essentially the same thing. It's just you have to definitely be a racer at one of the highest levels. The British Racing Drivers Club actually ended up outright purchasing the track in 1971. And then since then, they and the Royal Automobile Club actually both run and organize the race every year. They're nothing, crazy out there. It's a really private club, kind of like Augusta National, who runs the Masters in golf. But the kind of notable thing that people see at the end of every race is that the drivers will get their first, second, third place trophies from whoever the race sponsor is at the end of the race. But the Royal Automobile Club actually also provides the winning driver with a very nice and very immaculate gold trophy, which it's got the names of every winner of the British Grand Prix inscribed on it. It's also kind of like the green jacket from Augusta, where they do have to return it to the Royal Automobile Club, where it's kept every year. But it's definitely a pretty sweet honor to be given that trophy.
I know we'll talk about this in a second, but it's no surprise. Max Verstappen won the race. Well, you talk about the gold trophy. They didn't hand him the trophy yet before the three people on the podium started celebrating, and they sprayed the shit out of the lady that had the trophy.
Yeah, this poor lady had to hand out the trophy, which she got destroyed.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure she was a member of parliament too. And
it's like actually like royal people run it. I forgot which of the royal family is technically like the head of the organization, but it is run by like the royal family. Of which something else for Max actually is he has won at Silverstone before, but because it technically was not the British Grand Prix during the COVID season in 2020, he didn't actually receive that trophy before. So this was his first time winning that.
Okay. Well, since we already spoiled the winner, let's get into the other stuff that happened during the race. We moved from Pat's Paddock into the race section of the weekend. And if I gave you listening $5 if you could guess which team fucked up first, I guarantee you 75% of y'all would choose a Haas. Well, 75% of you would win because lap 7, Nico Hülkenberg, his wing end plate fell off. He made contact and his wing end plate fell off. It's a weekly thing. Gene Haas, dude, save some money, bro. Pay your taxes and sell the team.
I wonder how many end plates they go through in a season. Like they
what about whole chassis, bro?
I mean, they use those fucking end plates like driver tear-offs. It's just like gone, gone. Like every race, it's that same part that gets broken on their car right at the beginning of the race. And I mean, it's like, are they made of paper mache or something? Like go ahead.
I was just saying what sucks is that whenever you like lose that, it's not just let's stick the end plate back on. You gotta replace the whole
damn
wing. So it's like you can't afford to do that too many times or you're done.
And they do it literally every race. At least one of their drivers has a wing replacement. It's absurd, but well, props to whoever guessed Haas because you win money. It's not for me. Ask someone for it. It's not for me, but
not for me either. Huh?
That was lap 7. We move on 3 more laps later. Lap 10, Esteban Ocon for Alpine. He actually retired due to a hydraulic leak. It was kind of odd because he was able to make it all the way around into the pits and then they just retired him from there. So there was no safety car or virtual safety car or anything like that. But with a hydraulic leak, normally you can't make it back. Like you just pull over immediately. Well, it happened right before the pit. So he just zoomed right in. That was it. But if we're going to continue the Haas train, we're going to continue the Haas train. Lap 33. I don't know if you guys remember in our recap. Well, in Q1, Kevin Magnussen, his car stopped on track, caused a red flag with 3 minutes to go, right? Well, I guess Haas didn't even fucking look at what might have caused that to happen. because during the race, lap 33, K-Mag's car catches on fire. It brought out a safety car, a full safety car, because his car caught on fire right offside, like right on the side of the track. How are these guys able to, like, how is...
I really think at this point they should just get sponsored by like jet puffed marshmallows, because they're cooking s'mores every weekend in that car. We even saw it in Canada too. It's like every weekend their engine is just gone. Yeah.
I just don't understand how, if one car every weekend catches on fire and burns, how is that not either a penalty from the FIA to Haas because they're causing a delay in the race? Like, literally they have to throw a safety car every time, or VSC every time. How is that not a fine somewhere? And then 2, why the fuck has Haas not canceled their contract with Ferrari? Because I'm just at a loss of words. It makes no sense to me.
There's unfortunately no like penalty written in the rules or anything like that, because I mean, you don't expect one team to just have their car catching on fire every weekend. I actually do think there have been some teams way in the past when there were, like 30 teams trying to compete, where because of funding and like mechanical issues where like it caused drivers to actually crash, they actually disqualified teams for like the rest of the season, which they might need to bring that back at this rate. But I'd
rather have 19 full teams race than have Haas do shit every, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
because it, like I said, it brought out the safety car. That was lap 33. It brought out the safety car, and that caused a lot of drama that didn't play to natural race succession. So lap 33 with that safety car, McLaren, they were at a debate, right, Chandler, between putting on scrub soft tires, so used soft tires, and brand new hards.
Yep, and that was kind of the debate they went with, and the Lando on the radio kept saying he wanted softs, he wanted the softs, and they came in and boxed, and they put him on fresh hards. Zach Brown was like, look, we wanted fresh tires, but it's about to be a dogfight for these next 5 laps. Because, once the hards get heated up, they're going to be fine. You're probably going to – it just depends on how much ground you lose in them first laps trying to get the hards warmed up. So they ended up putting both Oscar and Lando on fresh hards. And at the time, we're kind of like, this is not good. There it goes. We're getting on our own way.
Well, it was because everyone around them had soft tires on.
Yes. And I will say Max is the only one that had a fresh set of softs. Everybody else was throwing on scrubs, different amount of usage, but still had been, they weren't fresh. So that's the only thing that gave me some sort of hope was they're not brand new fresh tires. I said, but I'm dreading this restart.
Yeah. I mean, for the first, like Chandler said, the first 4 or 5 laps after you get started, like you could ride around all day long under the safety car, but until legitimate heat gets put into those tires, the hards stand no chance against the softs. The softs are going to have way more grip. Well, Lewis Hamilton was right behind Lando, and it was a dogfight. Lando, they say Checo is the minister of defense. Lando defended like he was in a Spitfire over Silverstone in World War I. I mean, this dude was he was going for it. And he was able to keep Lewis Hamilton at bay, which Lewis Hamilton, a multi-world champion, it's insane that this guy who's never won a Formula One race before was able to do it.
I mean, I will say that.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I will say that whenever they were going through Cope's corner at high speeds, I was having nightmarish flashbacks to 2021 of Lewis is going to take the inside. Lando's not going to know what to do, try and cut in, and boom, there goes Lando out of the race.
Yep.
But props to Lando, defended his tail off on that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, also sorry to interrupt, but before you comment on that, Pat, like you say props to Lando, yes, but also props to Lewis. Lewis gave him tons of space. It was a clean battle the entire time.
Yeah.
Pat.
I mean, I'm not gonna rehash what happened in 2021 at Cops. But that battle between those two actually had me on the edge of my seat. And I was even, I was at a restaurant with Chris and they were coming down the Hangar Straight, which is that long straight right before Cops. It used to be the starting point for Silverstone. And I was like, okay, well, here goes Lewis, like Lando Norris, RIP. I really thought he just wasn't going to be able to stick it out with the hard tires because it was going to take so long to get him actually up to speed. But Lando hung through that first third of the track, which was, I think, where Mercedes was really excelling. And then once you start to get through the backside of the track with like Maggots and Beckett's, and then coming down the very end, the McLaren just took off, which was honestly impressive for me to see because I thought he was just a sitting duck for Lewis to destroy him.
Yeah, no, exactly. So there were a couple drivers at the end of the race that complimented the McLarens, saying like that was fucking insane. Like especially the Mercedes drivers, like George Russell was behind Oscar Piastri, saying like, "Wow, that they're fast."
Like Lewis this was mid race. He was like, he's like, "Are y'all seeing what I'm seeing? Like these McLarens taking off on hards, like it's impressive."
Yeah, and then Lewis Hamilton was saying the same thing. He's like, "Guys, these McLarens are fast." And then even after the race, Lewis was like looking at the McLaren cars very closely, like Inspector Seb used to do. You know what I mean? Like he was trying to figure stuff out. But the end of the race actually came pretty quickly. The only thing besides the hard tire battle with Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris was Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly retired lap 48, just mechanical issues. That was it. I mean, both a double DNF for Alpine with Ocon and Gasly, not a good way to finish the race weekend. But for McLaren, on the contrary, it was pretty fucking great.
Absolutely.
We already said earlier that Max Verstappen won the race. Well, I couldn't give a rat's ass. They should just let him get first every time and save the money. Don't even let him out there. Well, in second place, Chandler.
Lando.
That was so cringy, but I also agree. Woo!
I do not care if it was cringy. It was extremely fantastic to watch.
Dude, it was honestly so much fun. Like, Pat, I was freaking out. I think
also, you got the fastest pit stop too. So and double bang for that.
Well, bang. If we're gonna do double bang, might as well do triple bang because bang. Lando is also driver of the day for the second week in a row.
And a quadruple bang for Albon in the points.
Bang.
Like we love to see.
There you go. In third place was Lewis Hamilton. So they had a battle, Lando and Hamilton. They battled for a while there, like we talked about. Well, it kind of sucked. That safety car ruined it for Oscar. I was really hoping for McLaren double points or double podium, but dude, second and fourth, I'll take that shit any day of the week.
And again, I didn't know this until after the race. Like Oscar said, Oscar didn't even have the complete upgrade package. He still has to he gets the new nose at Hungary. And so for him to do it, which makes sense now because, Lando started extending that lead on Lewis late in the race. Oscar was kind of just holding even. And I was kind of wondering what's the difference now. What's encouraging is if Oscar gets that nose and we're in a similar situation next round, like there's a chance that we come down the last 3 or 4 laps. If this happened again and Oscar had the nose, so we could be watching Oscar and Lewis battle for the podium on the last couple laps. And like that just excites me. It just
yeah. That's what gets you going. And
that's right.
Honestly, that's awesome because as McLaren fans, it's it takes a lot to get us excited again. Because after the start of this year, it's like, all right, we had this promise of Oscar and Lando and the new car and all this, and it wasn't there. The magic wasn't there. Like we talked about it. The shit was like a tractor. Like it was so slow. We're in the bottom 5 every week. Like this is not fun to watch. You know, people hop on the Alonso hype train and all that stuff, and it's just not fun. Well, now that our team is back, like
That's
some
right.
people call it bandwagoning, but like it's Formula One it's a tough sport to stick with one person, one team.
It is. If you're a fan of a driver, you're not going to be a fan of like that
A
team.
team. Yeah.
It's
exactly
a little different than like you have in the NBA. You have LeBron fans. It's a little different because LeBron. It's a much longer season. B is that you're probably there's like okay, we know he's going to be at this team for like 5 years, maybe longer than that. Whereas in Formula One, you know, unless you have a Max Verstappen-esque contract of like 10 years, is like you never know like
where they're gonna go,
or when. Like you may not know until like August that hey, November he's done and he's going somewhere else. That's like so you kind of got to enjoy the moments when you get them, and so I'm excited for what we got coming.
Speaking of enjoying the moments, during the post-race interview, Lando Norris with Coulthard, he was getting attacked by some big ass bug. I don't know if it was like Beetlejuice or what. I have no idea, but that motherfucker was like swarming Lando, and any normal person, you know, they might, shoe fly, don't bother me. Lando Norris tries to fucking punch a bug and on TV, it's like, bro, what the fuck? And then he started laughing, and then you look over, and then all the other drivers were laughing their ass off too. It's like, bro, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, come on. And it's like, oh wait, that's why we love you. Okay, yeah, but that was the British Grand Prix. Like we said, Max Verstappen came home with the win again. Lando Norris came home in second place and driver of the day for the second week in a row. And then Lewis Hamilton got a podium as well. So 2 Brits on the podium, not a bad way to do a home race. We move into the Hungarian Grand Prix. And boys, that's in a couple weeks. That's the 21st through the 23rd. Qualifying will be that Saturday at 10 a.m. And then the race will be that Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So we already said last episode in the part 1 of 2 that Patrick is going to go first. He guessed Charles Leclerc to win the Austrian Grand Prix, and he was correct. Chandler
top finisher behind.
Yeah. And Chandler guessed that Fernando Alonso would finish highest, and then I guessed that Lewis Hamilton will. So the rules are the same. You guys cannot pick Max Verstappen, and then you cannot double pick. So pick the highest finisher other than Max Verstappen. Pat, so who is going to finish highest in the Hungarian Grand Prix?
So as much as I want to take Lando after the new upgrades, I'm going to leave him for you guys. And I am going to go with Lewis Hamilton to finish highest.
Okay. I thank you. Maybe we'll see. Chandler, who are you picking to finish highest?
Oh, it's a McLaren. I'm going with Oscar because I'll be happy. I'll be happy if you win, Kyle's, because I think you're going to pick who I think you're going to pick. I will be very happy with either Oscar as my pick or whoever you take if you're taking who I think you will.
Well, Patrick saved this pick for me, except I'm not going to take it. Chandler thinks I'm going to pick this person. I'm not. I'm actually going to go with the guy who's been really shitty lately, but his car is not shitty. He deserves to be up there. He might even catch a win. I am questionable about it, but hopefully he gets into Q3 at least. My pick is going to be Checo. We'll see how it goes. I hate that that's a crazy pick nowadays because he's in a fucking Red Bull, so it shouldn't be. But we'll just clarify right now that picking first was Patrick. Patrick, you picked
Lewis Hamilton.
Chandler picked second. Chandler, you picked?
Oscar Piastri.
And I picked last or third, depending on which way you look at it. And I picked Checo. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Figuring Out the Formula. This was the British Grand Prix, part 2 of our 2-part series in our back-to-back doubleheader weekend. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe at Figuring Out the Formula. Thanks.